please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please, Mrs. Meltzer.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Mrs. West? Here. Mr. Keys?
Here.
Mr. Pearl?
Here.
Mr. Cannon?
Here.
Mr. Aragona?
Here.
Mr. Gilliam?
Here.
Mrs. Meltzer here.
Thank you. Do we have additions and/or deletions to tonight's agenda?
We do. These are all add-ons. Item number 13, tent permit for Stalls Prime Meats and Deli. Item 14, add-on approval of 2019-20 Community Development Block Grant Budget. Item 15, add-on resolution declaring June 7th National Gun Violence Awareness Day. Item 16, approve purchase of parcel ID number 16-11-16-277-001. Item 17, add-on awarding the tactile gear bid. Item 18, laser flow meter purchase for ACO and sewer flow monitoring. Would also ask, has been requested by Trustee Keys to move item 15 to, can we move it to item 2? Would that be okay?
So
Just-
moved.
Okay.
Support.
So that's for the amended agenda.
Item 15 is now item number,
It's been moved and supported for the amended agenda. Roll call, please.
well, I'm sorry, you know what? No, it would have to be, no,
1A?
it would be 1A.
Yes.
Is that okay? That's your motion, and, or Ken, you okay with 1A?
Yes.
Okay. And second. All right, Mr. Pearl.
Yes.
Mr. Keys.
Yes.
Mrs. West.
Yes.
Mr. Cannon.
Yes.
Mr. Aragona.
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam.
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes, motion passes.
Thank you, and welcome to your Township Board meeting this evening. If there is anything you wish to speak on as it comes before the board, please come to the podium and clearly give us your name and address for the record. If there's something that's not on the agenda that you wish to speak to, we have public comments in the front of the room to your left. Please fill one out. At the end of the meeting, you'll have 3 minutes to let us know what's on your mind. Thank you. And with that, we'll take item 1, request for a fence variance on Vermander.
To whom it may concern, I am writing the Township Board to ask permission to waive the ordinance for a fence on the front of my property at 20550 Vermander. I have 2 dogs, and my house is all the way to the back of the property. Most of my lawn is front yard. I have the picket fence, so it is not obstructing any view. It is strictly for the dogs to run. I am not going to do the privacy fence on the side of the property. That is already gone. I am asking to keep the short picket fence in the front. Please consider it's all about the puppies. Thank you, and hope to find favor. Aaron Bustan.
Thank you. In the past, when we've had someone put a fence in like this, we've asked them to move it back 25 feet, and that's what our building department head is asking us to do with this site. Are there any comments or questions?
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
So, right, it's in the photograph, and I don't know, Carol, can you bring that photo up so the public can see? Is that possible or no?
Yeah, I guess I can.
Okay. So is that, the location of the fence now, is that at the 25 feet back, or is it
No.
going to be, they have to move it again?
They would have to move it back 25 feet.
But aren't they asking that they don't have to move that?
That's correct.
Okay.
So it's the board's prerogative not to allow it at all in the front yard. So this is kind of meeting it halfway.
Well, there would be a cost then to move that fence, and right now it looks like you can see, it doesn't obstruct anything. I guess that.
The question I have of Mr. Miller is, did the petitioner come to you and ask if you could do this?
He filed for a permit, I believe, after the fact, putting up privacy fence along the side of the property. At that time, we noticed that, we told them they had to hold it back at least 25 feet because that's been past practice. This board just heard, I want to say within the last month, of another one in the exact same neighborhood
Yes.
that was to be held back 25 feet. So it is not in the front yard of the setbacks where the neighbors next door are set back to. The setback for the district is 25 feet for a home, and no accessory fences are allowed to go beyond the front edge of that home. So 25 was our give on the last one. I think it's reasonable because he literally has no backyard. I agree, it's the exact same setup as the one that we granted within the last month.
Okay, thank you.
So, excuse me, Mr. Miller, where is it now?
Yeah.
Foot what? How many feet?
Look at it.
Zero.
I know, but-
That.
I saw the picture. How many feet?
I mean, it's right at the right-of-way line, pretty much. I didn't get a tape measure out of the center of road, but the ditch line, on their side of the ditch is typically approximately where the front of their property line starts.
So it's 10 feet?
So it's
I don't think they're 10 feet in. I would guess they're more like at the most 2 or 3.
Thank you.
Mrs. West?
So you're looking to have this past that little tree?
25 feet back, about 25 feet back from where he's at right now.
So it'd be past that little tree?
Yes, I'm
I
guessing
think it would
so.
be equal to where the house is next door.
Oh, you're right.
Would that make sense?
That would make, that is
That
possible.
is a 25-foot
Right,
setback.
because that's the 25-foot.
Yeah. Well,
So, I'm sorry. So is that your request, is to move it back to that point?
No, I,
Or you want
it's
to leave
been
it
there for
right where
9
it's
years.
at?
I just want
Leave it where
to
it's at.
resolve it, yeah. I have better pictures.
Yeah.
And also, my comment is, our next door neighbor has a fence that
We'll
butts
hold
right
off on the
up
comments and speak on the mic.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Our neighbor, it would be that, you might be able to see it on, but they have a chain link fence that mine goes right to. So they have a fence in their yard that is the same distance from the road as mine is at current.
We haven't addressed that one as of yet, but it will be.
And
The thing
it's- I
about
mean,
the
that's been
chain,
there
no,
for-
the problem with the chain link, it could have predated the ordinance as well. That's something that, I mean, this one we know didn't, you can tell, just by how new the wood is on it.
Can I speak to that? I just replaced this has been there for about 10 years. And I just replaced the picket. It was a different wood, so that's why it looks new.
Anytime you replace a fence, it has
And
to
I
adhere to
understand
the
that now,
current
yes.
ordinance.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Cannon, one other question, because I see the pictures that you have here. Is that the side of, can I see that for a second? Is this one the side of the house, or is that in front again? Is that,
That is the front facing towards, it
okay.
would be,
So why don't
Towards
you,
Little Mac.
why don't you have a sidewalk in front of your yard?
I don't know. It's never been there.
Isn't
I've
that
been there for
required?
about 15 years.
Isn't that required?
I mean, there's no sidewalk. You can go almost the whole block, there's no
Right,
sidewalk.
Vermander doesn't have.
I thought residential had to have sidewalks in front, in this part. Okay. I don't see why, well, can I continue?
Yep.
I just think since it's been there, it's, I know that, I see, Mr. Miller's point, but it's not blocking any view, and I thought that the reason we had these setbacks in place was so that people didn't build fences and then we didn't know what was going on. Not that I really care really what's going on in your yard, to be honest with you. So I don't even know if I like the ordinance at first, but I'm sure there's a good reason. But that probably isn't the one I pointed out as the best. But, yeah, I don't see anything wrong with the way this is set up now. And to make it move it in means that he's got less property for the dogs to run in. And
What type of dogs do you have, sir?
Australian Shepherds, a male and female.
So these are pretty
They're-
big dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is
But
this
then-
fence capable of keeping them in?
It's worked for 10 years.
Well,
I've had-
this is a new fence, so clearly there was
Right, but
something
there was
there
a fence there. I just
before.
replaced the
And then you have
panels.
a sign on your fence, beware of dog? Are they vicious dogs?
Yeah, they're horrible. No, they're very loving.
Well,
They'll lick you to
You're
death.
asking to bring the fence all the way up to the front of your
No,
lot?
I'm not asking to move it at all. I don't,
No, it's there.
Oh, yes.
You're asking, it doesn't belong there.
Right.
Our ordinance doesn't allow it. So you're asking to allow it to be there, and you have big dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm asking if they're dogs that could hurt someone who walks
absolutely
by.
not. No.
Okay.
Like I said, we hadn't had a problem, and there's neighbor dogs, there's people that walk the street all the time. Obviously, they don't have a sidewalk, but they would walk the sidewalk, and I haven't
Well,
had a
there's
problem.
a sidewalk that comes right up to your property.
Yes, but
Where?
there's no one on the other side either.
I understand. but-
So they walk, and then they have to walk into the ditch, which isn't very good for the pedestrians either.
Well, especially because your fence is there.
No, there's
Well,
no sidewalk.
Pardon me?
No, they would walk
Sidewalk.
straight into the ditch, because if you look at, it doesn't show that, but the one picture might, you
Yeah.
can see that.
yeah.
It ends right where the ditch is,
So
so
they have to walk in the.
they have to walk into the ditch.
But if they moved the fence back, they wouldn't have to walk in the ditch.
No, because there's a fence there in the neighbor's side, that
Albert?
comes all the way out to where mine is right now.
Mr. Miller has just indicated he's going to be addressing that fence that he knows shouldn't be there.
If possible, Mr. Cannon. If, like I said, if the fence appears to be old in nature.
It's
I-
probably
I
been there.
I would have to leave it alone. I mean, the ordinance didn't take effect till the 70s. So, I mean, unless I can put a date on that fence, it's not something that we typically go after.
Okay, but according to today's standards, both fences are improperly placed.
Correct.
Thank you. Mr. Aragona?
Sir, can I ask when your house was built?
I'm sorry?
Can I ask when your house was built?
I believe it was 58.
Okay.
Further questions? And I think our building department head is bending over backwards to allow it to be 25 feet, same as the house next door. But
It isn't the same as the next door, though.
no, the house next door is 25 feet back, not the house that has the fence. The house that's,
The house itself? Okay.
So, I mean, I really think there does need to be a walkway, whether there is a sidewalk or not. You know, kids have to then, go basically from wherever that sidewalk stops to then go out into the street and then go by. By moving the fence back, whether it's sidewalk or not, they would have an area where they could actually progress. I grew up not too far away from there. I know that there are stops and starts to the sidewalks, but there was always a path kind of running by the front yard that we could ride bikes and where.
So usually isn't
things
the
would-
sidewalk on the city property, not, it would not be on my
Well,
property?
it's not necessarily the city property, it's the sort of right-of-way that is created by the road being there. And so it's
But I have
basically
a
public easement. but
15-foot ditch there
it's-
also.
But it's also the responsibility of the homeowner to take care of that easement.
I absolutely can
Between
take
that.
care of it.
So, and it looks like you have taken care of it. I'm not disputing that point. I'm just suggesting that I think part of the reason why the ordinance is there is because there needs to be that ability for people to go by without having to go into the street. And that's a concern of mine.
So if they get through my property and then the next property, and then further on, there's nothing.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, they could get through my property, which they would walk on,
Yeah.
where the fence is now, I understand that. So
I mean, I
I'm
think.
trying to- I just wanna
think we
resolve it,
need
so.
to- I think we need to hold firm to these rules and enforce them to the extent that we can. And I think this is a good compromise to say, okay, move it back to the start of where the house is. That gives you room for the dogs, and it allows for a public walkway, if you will, in what is easement.
thank you.
'Cause
Mr. Pearl?
Yeah, Mr. Miller,
Yes.
what's our ordinance say about this front fence?
A front yard fence is not to exceed the leading edge of the home, no closer to the road than the front edge of your home. So, I mean,
Right,
his problem.
so that you don't have
80 foot back? Is that where
fences
you want
Yeah,
it?
his would, he
back. But
would have
because
a-
his is so far back, this would be a compromise, moving it 25 foot.
He would
Because
have,
otherwise he'd have to put it back 100 feet.
correct. And that's what you guys have done in the past. Like I said, about a month ago, we heard a very similar case. They had a 5-foot backyard, no front yard, and this board did make them hold it back.
On the
25
Raven, we
feet.
made him move it back.
The one on Moravian, you guys had them hold back 15 feet into their property. Reason for that was because there was a large right-of-way there on Moravian, which went back, and it was a farm-style house that was built up closer than the setback to begin with.
So would 25 feet put it to the edge of the other house, the front of the house?
Approximately there, right about there, yeah.
So then that would be proper for them.
Yeah, I think the only variances this board has granted over the years along a front property line has been, I believe there's one on Cass, across from a subdivision where a gentleman put up a obscuring fence there because of the headlights for a car. But that's pretty much it. You denied another one along Clinton River Road, right where Romeo Plank turns to Clinton River Road. A gentleman was doing a fence there, and and we didn't allow it on the front property line. Again, the only reason, if he would have held it back a little ways, I could have considered it without bringing it to this board, but being in the front yard setback, we've been very consistent with holding it back off the road.
About the one on McKinsey Farms.
We're only discussing your property tonight, sir.
Okay.
So that, understand, that's a compromise because the rule says it has to be behind you, front of your house. This
Okay.
is-
House is all the way.
And that's not right because of the distance of your house sets back,
Correct.
so this 25-foot, I don't know if it would make any difference if it was 15 foot or not, it still has to be moved if the board so chooses to enforce. Thank you.
Mrs. West?
Thank you. Now, as I look at these poles that you have, that the fence is connected to, are those solar lights on the top?
Correct.
Okay, so you've actually tried to make it so that anybody who's going to walk or, be passing by your house, et cetera, can have a lighted path.
Absolutely.
So, okay. When you changed the pickets on this, about how much did that cost?
Probably about 400.
$400? Do you have any idea how much it would cost for you to move this whole thing back?
I mean, just my time. So, I mean, it'd be at least a full day. It'd be,
Oh, you work fast.
well, I mean, probably
He's
a lot.
talented,
I'm
too.
just,
Okay, well,
a lot of friends help.
yeah, there you go. Thank you.
My comment is that, I mean, if you're talking about keeping people from being able to pass through, is on both sides, there's even if that fence wasn't there, they're still going to go into the ditch, is my opinion. Because of where the other ones are, which have been there for probably 40 years, I would think.
Mr. Chairman, if I may also, the pictures don't really show it, but off to the left, there is a sidewalk that ends there.
Yes.
That sidewalk typically is on the edge of the road right-of-way. There's 1 foot beyond that sidewalk, which he's got. I mean, that fence is literally, looking at that, he is pretty much on the front property line. It's up to this board if they want to make the decision to allow it to be there as it's existed for many years. My only concern is setting precedents going forward. And that is solely my only concern. I don't see this as a site problem. I mean, we allow chain link fences to be on that 1 foot off the sidewalk on like a side property. There are things that we do allow when it's a side yard, rear yard situation. And it's solely about granting a variance for this gentleman to allow something that we really haven't allowed. And just setting that precedent going forward.
And I know we're only talking about my property, but there is probably 4 or 5 more properties that have fences.
Again, we're
Just-
only talking about yours tonight.
Okay.
Mrs. West?
Thank you. And my only other concern here, too, is, Mary, I don't know, oh, she left. If anybody wants to take a look at these, but it's the pipes that are sticking up. I mean, God bless his heart to have the lights, because if somebody was walking in front, they would probably trip over those. And I don't know what they are, gas, I don't know if they're past
They'll
that.
trip over that or the no sidewalk or
Yeah, you see what I'm saying?
15-foot ditch. There's a lot of obstacles there besides my
Mr.
fence.
Cannon, can I ask Barry a question?
Yes.
Mr. Miller, is there anything in the ordinances now that could require the homeowner to put in a sidewalk along there? Or is he grandfathered in for that? He doesn't have to do that?
I mean, if the board decided at some time to force an SAD on the road, or if there were, and I doubt there were back in the 50s when that house was built, any kind of covenant that was drawn up, which, like I said, back in the 50s, I doubt that was the case. It would be something, I think, where the board would have to force an SAD on that street to put in sidewalks.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. There's a gentleman behind you who'd like to speak.
Sam Bushel, 18546 Wayland Drive. Mr. Miller stated that anytime the pickets are replaced, it must meet the current ordinance. correct? So in other words, those are old poles and a fence that's been there, as you said, for many, many years. But just by replacing the pickets, it has to meet the current ordinance?
That's correct.
And so I guess what I'd wonder why the building department hasn't been doing that for commercial properties.
That's not what we're discussing tonight.
Well, you should be.
Okay, the floor is open for a motion.
Make a motion.
I'll make a motion to allow the fence to be 25 foot from the property line.
Is there a second?
So approve a variance on the condition that it be moved back to the 25-foot setback.
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
Support.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Pearl.
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam.
Yes.
Mrs. West.
No.
Mr. Keys.
No.
Mr. Cannon.
Yes,
Mr. Aragona.
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, no.
you have, move your fence back 25 feet, please. Item 2 is actually item 1A, a resolution declaring June 7th National Gun Violence Awareness Day.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, you know what, on that last, can we give him a time frame to do so that's reasonable? I wasn't thinking about a time frame for moving that, because obviously it will be a lot of work to do that. I mean, I think it would be fair to allow him 60 days, 90 days to get it
90
moved.
days is fine with
I mean,
me.
does that
Yeah.
sound fair to this board?
Sounds fair to the motion maker and supporter?
Just to-
Okay, 90 days. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Susan Delaberti, 41202 Worthington. I'm here to talk a little bit about National Gun Violence Awareness Day. This day was started by friends of Haida Pendleton, who is a 15-year-old girl who was part of President Obama's second inauguration. A week after performing in the inauguration, Haida was struck by a stray bullet in Chicago as she walked with friends near her home. Her friends decided to honor and remember her on her birthday in June. This day was to become known as Wear Orange Day to honor Haida. They chose the color orange as it is used by hunters to warn others not to shoot. Since the first National Gun Violence Awareness Day in 2015, hundreds of communities and organizations continue to commemorate that day by wearing orange, holding community events, lighting skylines orange, and issuing city and state proclamations to raise awareness. Please add Clinton Township to this list to honor Haida and all victims and survivors of gun violence in America. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions of the board?
Did you want to have the resolution read in?
We usually
Someone else.
read these, don't we?
Well, she's read part of it.
Oh, okay.
I mean, if you want, you could read the whole thing and then,
Oh,
are you going to read a different part of it?
yes.
Okay.
I'm not going to read that. My name is Pamela Lideline. Although I'm not a resident of Clinton Township, I have relatives who live here. I shop here, I eat at restaurants here, and I attend events here. I am a gun violence survivor. On July 4th, 2012, my 34-year-old daughter, Michelle Packard, called me at approximately 8:30 p.m. She, her fiancé, and his 6-year-old daughter were excited to spend a beautiful summer evening celebrating Independence Day with a picnic and the fireworks. They were also celebrating her recent graduation from Michigan State University with a PhD in biosystems engineering. They would soon be moving to Maryland, where a job with the U.S. Department of Defense awaited her arrival. An hour later, I received a frantic call from her fiancé telling me that Michelle had had a seizure, was unconscious, and was in an ambulance on her way to the hospital. I too started to panic, but he assured me it would be okay. At about 11:30 p.m., he called back to tell me a CT scan found a bullet lodged in her brain. I knew immediately it would not be okay. A friend drove me to Lansing Sparrow Hospital, where I found my beautiful daughter on a ventilator and a doctor telling me her brain had been torn apart and there was no chance of survival. We waited for her sister to arrive. We told Michelle we loved her and said our goodbyes. She was pronounced dead at 9:30 a.m., July 5th, 2012. The police believe someone shot a gun in the air from a distance of up to a mile away. Her killer has never been identified. My daughter became a statistic of gun violence in America. Today, I ask you to proclaim June 7th, 2019 as National Gun Violence Awareness Day in Sterling Heights, or sorry, not Sterling Heights, in Clinton Township, to honor Michelle, Haida, and all victims and survivors of gun violence in America. Thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Gannon, can I just say I'm terribly sorry to hear this, and I'm so sorry for your loss.
Thank you. Is there part of this that we missed that you want read in?
No. I mean, basically, I think people have the gist of it. We're not suggesting that, actually references, respecting and supporting the Second Amendment, rights of law-abiding citizens goes hand in hand with keeping guns away from dangerous people. And so I think it's important to always, I know this is a politically charged debate, but I think we're at a point where we need to bring everybody together in a sense of a community to say this is something that needs to be addressed.
Thank you. Mr. Keys?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to thank my colleagues for helping me get this on the agenda, but also moving it up so we could hear those testimonies. But just want to single Pamela specifically out. Thank you for going across this county and telling your story. I'm seeing it over and over again at these different communities, and you're having an impact. So thank you. And then also Nancy in the red there, thank you for sending this over as well. It's always nice when a group of residents come together and want to see some action, and I'm just glad that this board was able to do that for you today.
Okay. Is there
So moved.
Support.
Mr.
I'd like to
Irvine?
make one quick comment. I will actually be voting no on this resolution. I support conversations to reduce violence, whether it's gun violence or not, and I think it's a laudable effort. However, I do know that this resolution does come from Everytown. I've had the opportunity to sit down and meet with Everytown. They did say that they were pro-Second Amendment. However, I do know that when they met with me, they had actually hired one of the most expensive lobbyists in Lansing, and their proposals, in my opinion, were very anti-Second Amendment. Again, I'm not trying to make this political. I'm just saying that there are things in this resolution that I disagree with. There's also things from Everytown that I disagree with. And just to note the things that I do disagree with in the resolution, it says 100 Americans are killed by gun violence on an average every day. What that doesn't take into account is the over 60% that are killed by suicide. I think that's a really good conversation to have. We have we're 11% higher than any other country in the world in terms of suicide. That's a really big problem. So I think that needs to be addressed. It also says Americans are 25 times more likely to be killed with guns than other developed countries. Interesting fact, we're actually not even in the top 10 for murders in terms of industrialized countries. Whether gun or otherwise, we're actually pretty low in terms of murder. So I think there's other facts and other conversations that could be had with this. Again, my heart goes out to those who have been affected by any type of violence, whether it's gun violence or not, but I personally was voting no.
Well, I moved the motion because I read it and I didn't see anything sinister about it. I mean, it's a terrible, terrible tragedy. And I assume that what they put in there was correct. I've heard these comments before from watching all these problems we've had across the nation with gun violence, but I didn't want to get into the whole discussion. It's just, I think what they're saying there is a response to the people getting murdered. There are other problems out there, yes, that have to be addressed. So I didn't see anything that wasn't factual in this. That's why I made the motion.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. This struck a chord with me. My little sister's an emergency room doctor at Sparrow. and you very well might have had Dr. Blazin. And I hear her all the time talk about young people coming in who were hit by stray bullets, et cetera, and it just breaks her heart. And this is really, I'm going to vote yes.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Sam Bushel, 18546 Wayland Drive. This is such a no-brainer. It is hard to believe anybody would try to make it political and say it's against the Second Amendment. We have had shooting after shooting after shooting. We've had a few this week in Clinton Township. I think we should really go against gun violence. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to say one thing. You're right about the statistic about the suicides. That is a large part of it. Dying by a bullet is violent, whether you've pulled the trigger yourself or someone else has. So it's still gun violence. And that needs to be prevented just as much as homicides and unintentional shootings by children. And that is part of why it says in there to keep guns out of the hands of people who shouldn't have them. It's not just criminals. It's children or people who find themselves in a very unstable state of mind. A gun being too handy is a simple way to end, a permanent way to end a temporary problem. So yes, suicide is a big part of gun violence, no question about it. It's also a part that needs to be addressed. It's not political.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion on the floor and a support. Is there something? Yes. Can we get your name and address for the record?
My name is Linda Bond, and I live in Rivergate. I have a dear friend who lives in Littleton, Colorado. When her kids were in high school, shootings happened there. 2 boys, can't remember the name, Devin Klebold and whatever, shot up that school. And I'll tell you, it's been, 30 years, 20 years?
20 years.
The trauma still is huge in that neighborhood. Recently, there was another shooter who was fascinated with Columbine and decided to put it on her Facebook or website or whatever that she was trying to go there. You can't glorify these guns. They're killing people. This is not good. Second Amendment or no, we have to find a way to make it work so
Thank you.
people are safe.
Thank you. Roll call, please, Mrs. Meltzer.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Argona?
No.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes, motion passes.
Item 2, proposed rezoning from B3 General Business to SP1 Special Purpose for a nursing home.
The commission has made review and held public hearing on the proposal to rezone the above referenced land is located fronting the west line of Gratiot Avenue, south of Hall Road, from B3 General Purpose to SP1 Special Purpose Nursing Homes for the stated purpose of redeveloping the existing Concord Inn property and building for use as an assisted living memory care facility. We hereby make recommendation for approval of the rezoning as requested. This action was passed unanimously. A copy of the notice of the April 25th, 2019 public hearing containing legal description and general location sketch and the land in question is attached for your information and file. This matter was petitioned by Ms. Rita Kumar, RMH Solutions LLC, 28592 Orchard Lake Road, Farmington Hills, Michigan, as represented by Cityscape Architects and Mr. Benjamin Aloya, attorney. We submit this proposal for consideration. Sincerely, Catherine Cherry, the Secretary for the Clinton Township Planning Commission.
Thank you. I think this is going to be a very nice change for the property. It'll be a different change. And I know that they're planning to put a lot of money and effort into this. Mr. Argona?
Yeah, I'm sorry, last time I believe it was Mr. Kumar who was here. Can we get your name for the record? Here. Miss, oh, I'm sorry. Is there a Mr. Kumar who's part of this? There's a Mr. Kumar, but he's not a part of it. Okay, all right. I apologize,
Then
Max.
you might as well give us your name and address for the record.
Tom Kellogg, Lehner Associates, 17001 18 Mile Road, Clinton Township.
Thank you for being here. When this was before the Planning Commission, there was a gentleman here who promised that all pending weddings would be taken care of, whether they would take care of them or they would move them somewhere else. Have every single one of them been taken care of?
We've discussed that with the current owners, and they have assured us that they have either agreed to have the certain ones up through August, I think. They've refunded people's deposits, and they have also assisted other people in finding other venues to hold their events.
So, okay, great. Is there any party out there that is left hanging, whether they don't know whether they're going to have their wedding, they don't have a refund, they aren't assured that they will be able to use this venue, anything of that sort?
Not that we are aware of.
I am aware that one of the relatively new halls on Gratiot have reached out to the people who are working at the Concord Inn and have offered to help get those weddings and parties all placed. And it's a beautiful hall, too. I'm sorry, did you have your hand up, Joe?
No, I
Oh,
finished
Mr.
the
Pearl?
Yeah, it didn't see the note in the notes, but the zoning board did recognize that there was a variance for height that had been approved years ago. But we did issue one variance. Was it sign or?
It was actually, through the chair, it was the street side landscape buffer. It was an existing
Yeah,
non-conforming.
those notes weren't in here, but basically, it looked like a good development. Don't want to see that building run down any more than it has been in the last 10 years. This sounds like a good win-win for the area, for seniors wanting to get into a nice complex. They have plenty of parking. And that was the only variance, so it's very minor. The property's set up correctly for it, and I hope all the people do get their plans corrected to where they can.
Yeah, and I agree this will be a good use for the property, but at the Planning Commission, the developers committed to us as the Planning Commission that no one would be left out in the cold. So I let them know afterwards, I'm going to hold you to that when it does come
Well,
before
that's
the
good.
board. I want to make sure that it is, and it sounds like it is, so that was my one concern. So, thank you.
So I appreciate the looking after those residents and making sure that people can have their celebrations. That's very, very important. Absolutely.
We had some angry
It's-
brides there.
Right.
It wasn't fun.
You don't want to mess with that. So my understanding is that there's some issues with the regulatory agency in Lansing because of some building construction with wood versus requirements that require stud or, a metal stud construction or something like that. So you're still in that process? And,
The architects are handling that,
so
yes.
Okay, all right. And is it likely we're going to see some type of variance from there?
I'm not sure if it's a variance, but there are exceptions to certain of the rules that they're investigating.
Describe the scope of the facility. So is it just nursing home? Is there like varying levels of acuity care? Or is it just nursing home? Is it short-term rehab? Is it, is there like, I know that a lot of these places are moving from like a continuum. So they have, the short-term rehab, and then they have the nursing home, and then they have the, senior living, then they have the sort of assisted living type of stuff. So I'm wondering if anybody could speak to that, so we have a better sense as to what's going to happen at the facility.
Better let Rita speak to
Okay.
that.
Rita Kumar. It is going to be assisted living, memory care, and we may have some independent living. We're looking at that right now because it is a large building, so yes.
It's a large building, and then there's also property that's, I think, adjacent to it that's also part of the same land.
Yes, yes.
Will
and,
you have that parcel as well?
We haven't discussed that with the township yet.
Okay.
I know there is a parcel lot in the back.
I think we own property behind there,
Yeah.
but I think there's also a parcel that was owned by the previous owner?
No, that became our property.
Oh, we own that now, right?
Yeah, there's
Okay.
2 acres behind.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
Which is landlocked, is that correct?
Landlocked, it is.
That is correct, and if I may, part of the discussion we've had, and it's part of the plans that are before you, is they've been gracious enough to grant us an easement through the property
Oh, good.
so that we
Okay.
may have access to Gratiot Avenue, to that parcel, in case sometime in the future we want to utilize it through DPS or for whatever purposes might occur in the future. So they were gracious enough, again, to work with us to provide that as part of the approval.
Okay. And do you currently own other facilities? And what are the names and locations of those facilities?
We have a facility in Atlanta, Cartersville, and we have acquired another building in Southville. So, yeah,
Okay. And is this for-profit or not-for-profit?
it is for profit.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Cannon?
Any other questions?
Will you be doing rehab there too with the facility? They have the pool and all of that. Are you getting rid of that or what?
No, our intention is to have that available and have more of an independent assisted nursing care. So the pool our plan is to have the pool there for aqua therapy and everything. Yeah.
So there could be some kind of physical rehab
Yes.
part of it.
Yes, but I mean, it's not short-term, if you're talking about short-term. And we're not skilled nursing either. So we're more independent. We're trying to have a health and wellness aspect of that because we have that whole health club facility there. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Floor is open for a motion.
Move to approve.
Support.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Pearl.
Yes.
Mrs. West.
Yes.
Mr. Keys.
Yes.
Mr. Cannon.
Yes.
Mr. Aragona.
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam.
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes, motion passes.
Thank you. And item 3 is approval of appointment to election coordinator position.
Dear members of the board, the clerk's office is recommending the Township Board appoint Ms. Rihanna Carter to the position of election coordinator. Their recommendation is based upon civil service testing and an interview conducted by department management. As a condition of employment, she is required to successfully complete a background investigation and a pre-employment medical examination, including drug screen. Ms. Carter's starting salary will be $54,099 as outlined in the non-represented employee pay and benefits policy. Upon Township Board approval, her starting date will be June 3rd, 2019. Thank you for your consideration of this matter. Sincerely, William Smith, Human Resources Director.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Support. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Thank you, Mr. Keys.
Yes.
Mr. Aragona.
Yes.
Mrs. West.
Yes.
Mr. Pearl.
Yes.
Mr. Cannon.
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam.
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes, motion passes.
Thank you. And item number 4 is an SAD recommendation coming from the Budget Ways and Means Committee.
Dear Township Board members, on Tuesday, May 14th, 2019, the Budget Ways and Means Committee met and discussed the 6 options for Kentville, Cobham, Elliston, and Bayham paving SAD funding submitted by Mary Bednar as outlined in the attached backup materials. Macomb County Department of Roads has agreed to provide a total of $500,000 to the project, which is less than the 50% match received for past SAD projects. At this time, it is the committee's recommendation that the board support option number 2 and option number 3. Option number 2, which moves forward with the SAD and asks the county to allow AEW to do CCA and waive township administrative costs, which combined will save approximately $118,000. Option 3 moves forward with the SAD with Macomb County Department of Roads 2019 grant funding, along with additional allocation of $350,000 from the 2020 Macomb County Department of Roads subdivision program. Thank you for your consideration of this matter. Sincerely, Kim Meltzer, Kim Meltzer, yeah, what's my thing? Chairperson for, yeah, I'm sorry, I have a different letter than you guys. Chairperson for the Budget Ways and Means Committee.
You cracked me up.
Okay,
Trying to
Mrs.
technology
Bednar,
at the same time.
this has been a good partnership with us in the county as far as the roads in Clinton Township. And in this case, they did not allocate enough, and we don't think that if they had to go back and get signatures once again, that they would have enough signatures based upon the amount allocated. You've had conversations with the county. What is your feeling about them giving us the money next year?
At this point, they have not approved their budget, so I have not received a commitment from them. But, you know, earmarking money and moving forward has been done in the future. We've done it with our parking lot. We've done, so at this point, we're waiting back on the Department of Roads. I don't really have a feeling at this point.
So what are you looking for this evening?
I believe from this board would be appropriate to send a letter to the Department of Roads with whatever we would like to see them request formally. I have sent an email to them last week informally asking for exactly these 2 options, or saying that we're bringing these forward based on the Budget Ways and Means Committee, so that you know that there is something coming, so they can start having conversations and so forth. But I would say at this point, to do a formal recommendation from this board saying we would like both options 2 and 3 to help the residents and move this project forward.
And when would the project be built, should they agree to that?
Based on the timing of the special assessment district and going through the public hearing process and designing the plan or the projects and so forth, we would be looking at a spring of next year's construction.
So 2020 spring.
Yep.
Thank you. Mr. Aragona?
Yeah, Ms. Bednar,
His hand up too.
what does this mean in terms of if they say, look, we're not doing this program anymore? I mean, are we moving forward? Obviously, there's been some residents who have signed the petition. I haven't actually looked at the petition, but if DOR denies us that grant funding, what happens?
So in the petition was circulated, they received 61% support for moving forward. I believe, and the petitioner was here so he can speak to it, but I believe the assumption was that the Department of Roads, they would hope that they would get the 50/50 grant. So I'm not sure, I would have to talk with the petitioner to find out exactly what was the assumption, but I believe that was the assumption of people signing. So if we do not get this option 2 and 3, at that point, we would have to go back to the petitioner and find out, do we move, what is the next option? Do we move forward without it? Do we, does that would come back to the board? There were 6 different options presented at Budget Ways and Means, and the board would have to decide, or do you terminate the project?
Okay.
Mr. Gilham?
So, all right, so just to kind of clarify, when they circulated the petitions, it was circulated at the 100% rate, right?
Correct.
Okay, but what we also know is that all of the SADs that have been approved in the previous, I'd say going back, 3 or 4 years? They've all had a 50% match from the county. So this one came back from the county. This is a $2 million grant allocation from the county to the Department of Roads for subdivision roads within townships. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and so this time around, they said, we're not giving you the full 50%. Clinton Township, you've been sucking up all of the SAD match money, and so.
No, they didn't say that.
No, I know, but they
didn't
didn't technically say that, but you could kind of feel that being the response. And the other townships are now competing with us for those dollars, and so they said, out of the $3 million, we're only giving you $500,000.
Out of the $2 million.
Or, excuse me, the $2 million. So they're giving us 25% of the $2 million total grant. And what we're asking them is 2 things. One, to apply to this project, the $500,000 that they've agreed to, and then $350,000 out of the following year's budget, which we don't know is actually there because the board hasn't approved the budget, rather the county board hasn't approved the budget. And as a result, the dollars technically are not there, but it's likely that they're going to be there. And so we're asking the Department of Roads that if they are, can you approve $350,000 for this? In a sense, that's the board asking them for that, right?
Correct.
Okay. Then there's the use of acronyms here. AEW is our engineering firm. CCA, waive township administrative cost, saving $118,000. So speak to that because I think we need to make sure everyone knows what CCA is. And
So how SADs have typically worked is our engineering company would do the engineering, the design of the project. Then those plans get turned over to the Department of Roads because it's their roads. They review them and they make sure that they meet their standards and so forth. And then the Department of Roads would bid out that project and administer CCA, Contract Construction Administration, is that what that stands for. But at that point, the county would oversee that. So they would do all of the inspection, they would do all the paperwork, all the pay apps, all of the administration that goes along with constructing a project. We have a very good contract with Anderson, Exxon, and Westrick that that actually sets out percentages based on construction amounts. And using those, our current contract with AEW, that $118,000 and waiving our township fees, which are minimal, like Paul setting up the SAD through your office, the work that I do.
the work that Kim's office does.
The work that, thank you, the work that Kim's office does. We would waive those fees, and that would total $118,000 that could come off of the $1.7 million overall project. So right off the bat, that takes a $1.7 million project down $120,000. So now you're at 1.6 million, 1.658, or what is the math? But, and then so that's kind of the idea, is we can save the residents by using our contract to be able to save that cost. So that's what that is all about. To clarify, the Department of Roads, we have received these fundings in the past, and they did come back and say, here's 500,000. So at this point, that is, they didn't say any of what, Paul, you had said, but
I'm reading between the lines.
but, we have received quite a bit of funding to that CCA, that contract administration we talked about. That's how Charter Oaks, when we did that SAD, that's how Charter Oaks was done. So it's not unheard of from the Department of Roads to actually allow a consulting firm to do the full project. In fact, at the time, the Road Commission actually bid out the engineering and the contract, and AEW won that. They were, but this time they'd be representing us using our contract and our contract prices.
So two things, we're saying county allow us to suck up 2 years of the grant allocation that might be available for Clinton Township, that which is approved this year, and then, possibly next year's. And then also, the township is contributing, point that I think is always necessary for us to make is the roads are still under the jurisdiction of Macomb County. They are still theirs, and so we're basically having to make this ask. The township's role here is, one, trying to contribute to this project so it gets done, and two, helping the county administer this project on behalf of our residents, but we do that as a local unit of government without the jurisdiction and authority to make this happen. Department of Roads is required for that.
And to clarify, the petition was circulated for the 1.7 million. So when I said the residents assumed the grant, it was based on past practice, what was received by the township in the past. That was the assumption based on the past.
I think the other point that's important to make is that the residents in this particular neighborhood went out based upon funding level, circulated a petition. It came all the way up to this board, and this board had to deny it because it was out of the 10% parameter, because the estimates that we got from the Department of Roads were not accurate. And so this is their second go-around. We have kind of a third go-around. We have a special responsibility to make sure that we try to get this done for you. So, thank you.
Mr. Keys?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of questions for Mrs. Bednar. When I look at the map, and I always appreciate you doing this because it gives us a really good understanding of where the community is at, who said yes. A couple of questions. So when we look at these streets, I think I can tell just from the image, is it your impression that these roads do need to be addressed, outside of the fact that the residents came to us with the petition, just looking at the quality of the roads?
Yes, and remember the Pazer study that we did last year?
Don't try to drive through.
They were in poor condition in 2008, and now they're in very poor, if not failed condition now.
Okay.
So, yes, but they've been like this since 2008 plus,
Or even
Right.
before.
And I remember one of the reasons I was so interested in the PACER study is that I think it helps us plan ahead. And I know that in some of the current projects, when we looked at it, some of the comments that were brought in by residents is, why did you choose the roads you did? And when you did choose those, did you take into account the other roads that are in that neighborhood? So just one example, and I don't know if you have the map in front of you, I apologize. But Picton, for example, looking at the imagery here, it looks like that's in horrible condition, Picton Court.
Picton was done last year, or was
okay.
received grant funding last year and is under construction / wrapping up as we speak.
Perfect. And
So that's why, just to answer your question of the maps, yes, the Pazer study does help us, but we don't pick the streets.
Right.
The residents come in and apply for their street, and they set the parameters. From there, we determine the exact beginning and end based on engineering, design, what makes sense with drainage and so forth. But we start with what the petitioner is asking for, and say, okay, now what is the parameters from there? We don't just randomly say, hey, let's do street ABC this year.
Right.
Street ABC has to come and apply.
Right.
And then we apply engineering principles to it.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that. And then I just appreciate the history on this. I wasn't on the board for a lot of that, but I was coming on as a lot of this discussion was happening. And so I just appreciate the comments that it is true we have to take special care of this project because it is, I thought it was your second. I'm glad that you corrected the record and it's your third. So thank you. Thank you, Ms. Bednar.
Mr. Pearl?
Yeah, Bob, were you part of this, since your street's there? I had a feeling. Would you say that option 2 or 3 is,
2 and 3.
is okay with the residents, or what? I mean, it doesn't sound like a perfect scenario. You didn't get 50%, but as Mr. Gilliam has said, the county's being a little tighter.
Well, option
But we're
2,
getting them to 50%
Yeah.
through this.
We haven't got there yet. We're
No.
only getting 500,000, and they're putting in more than 500,000.
We're asking them to put in more to get them to the 50.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we haven't said which way we're going to go, but option 2 was to have our own engineering done, like Charter Oaks.
Mr.
It's an and, not an or.
It's an and. We're, Budget Ways and Means asked for both options. Save, instead of 1.7 million, now it's 1.58 million. So that's the savings on option, that first option.
Right.
And then split the difference. So instead of asking for 350, at that point, we could ask for 290,000. But it's up to this board. But the idea is if option 2 alone, I think is that what it's called, option 2?
Option 2 and 3, yes.
Yeah, option 2 alone would not get to 50%.
Yeah, I understand that, but I'm asking him, since he circulated the petition, I assume,
Right.
that if the county said no on option 3, but yes on option 2, would they be still interested in doing it?
Give my name and address for the record. It's Robert Campbell, 41830 Kentvale Drive. And talking with other people who helped circulate the petitions on this particular project, I would say if we don't get the 50%, the people will not sign up for it. We put together a flyer and information about the whole thing when we started this back last fall. And with the facts of what we knew on the various streets and what the cost might be. And we worked with Mrs. Bednar and Mr. Chabot in terms of what we could say to them. And one of the key assumptions, based on the county's publicity, was that we're going to get a 50% match from the county. And I keep saying this is the third attempt. We had one back in 2008, 2009 that failed, led by the county commissioner. Again in 2000, I think it was 2014, was the one referred to by Mr. Gilliam that the county misestimated, and that one was an enormous effort, led by a number of people to get the whole subdivision done. And in this meeting here, the county road director had to stand up and say, I messed up. So all the work that went in to forming that SAD basically was thrown away. And here again, this is now the third time that the citizens of this subdivision, I think, are entitled to a feeling that the county is cutting them a raw deal. And
I agree from the history that we've gone through with your streets that, you know, we should ask the county to come up with appropriate money. And so the recommendation is 2 and 3?
Yes.
I'll also move that recommendation.
Very good. I will support that. We've been
Mr. Chip.
We've been lucky as a community because we've gotten the lion's share every year from the county. Other communities have seen Clinton Township get almost all. This year, they allocated 1/4 of their dollar amounts to your project. I believe in my discussions with some of the folks at the County Department of Roads and others that Mrs. Bednar is correct, that we will get an appropriation. Can't guarantee it, of course, because somebody else has to put it in the budget, as Mr. Gilliam mentioned.
Yeah.
And I believe they're going to do that because it has been very successful for Mr. Hackle. He's the only one in the state of Michigan doing it at the county level like this. So it would be, I'm supporting Mr. Pearl because I think that's your best option. In fact, I think it's really your only option.
Right.
To move the project ahead.
That's what I asked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I may speak, sir?
Yes.
I agree with the recommendation. The It does make sense. It's the only way we're going to get to that 50%. And because we know the township funds are not available. And I think I want to speak first on behalf of the residents of the subdivision, that we truly appreciate the determination of the township officials, employees, and contractors to help get this mess sorted out. Your dedication and continued commitment to getting this place straightened out is really appreciated. And I would point out, in answer to the question about Picton Court, which of course is being done right now, they've got all the concrete approaches in, and they're ready to do the blacktop on that. In the process of doing that work, I would invite you to go look at Kentville, close to the south end, close to the Miami School. This has basically destroyed our street with the heavy equipment that has been brought in for that Picton project. This project at this stage has to be done before we have some school bus accident turning over because of the condition of the road or stuff like that. We can't not do it. And I thank you again for your support.
Thank you. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Melser, yes, motion passes.
Okay, this item's a little easier. Item 5, purchase of building department office desk.
Dear board members, the building department requests your consideration and approval for purchase of a new desk for the office manager. The total cost of the desk is $3,191.19. This cost is a budgeted item through capital outlay and is lower than was originally budgeted by $808.81. Your consideration of this request is appreciated. Sincerely, Barry Miller, Superintendent for Building Department.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions? The floor is
So-
open for motion.
So moved.
Support.
Supported by Mr. Keys. Roll call, please.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Melser, yes, motion passes.
Thank you. And item 6 is a budget amendment and purchase of two 2019 F-150s for the building department.
Dear board members, the building department requests your consideration and approval for purchase of two 2019 Ford 150 pickup trucks through the Macomb County Vehicle Bid Program. The total cost of the vehicles are $53,174 delivered. Bid information is attached. This would require a budget amendment to the approved 2019-20 budget year. I am asking for approval based on information from our fleet manager in the water department that both 2008 Ford Escapes need to be retired and the need to replace the vehicle as quickly as possible. The vehicle is adequate for building inspection, sign confiscation, complaint investigations, and inspection at construction sites, floodplain areas, and use over difficult terrain. It provides the necessary room for testing, inspection equipment, fall weather gear, handouts, and instructional material, along with a small library of code and ordinance books. Your consideration of this request is appreciated. Sincerely, Barry Miller, Superintendent for the Building Department.
Thank you. And these are two 11-year-old vehicles that are used every day in very tough conditions. The only thing I would ask you to add next time, Mr. Miller, is how many miles are on the vehicles, although that really doesn't matter because of the rough conditions that they're in every day. But it would be nice to know how many miles that they have.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Both vehicles were right around the 100,000 mark, but stopping and going, I mean, these inspectors are making multiple stops a day, and I bet you those trucks probably haven't seen 60 miles an hour, so it's hard driving, so.
Yep. Yes.
Yeah, just through the chair to Mr. Miller, and I apologize, I'm reading through the letter again. Will you be putting stickers on this vehicle to identify it as a township vehicle? I know you've done that with some of them in the past.
Oh,
I'm sorry, Mayor.
Yeah, yes, the water department, we work with the water department and Magic Graphics typically to get those put on.
We put every vehicle except undercover police as our stickers.
Mr. Cannon, if I could just add, our fleet management has looked at these vehicles and actually have definitely said it's time with, they need.
Oh, I know, they're,
So
Terrible.
they confirm with Barry's, they're in bad condition.
One of them blew a trans, and it would cost $3,000 to get it replaced. The other one, they got it going again, but he told me it probably wouldn't last another month or two. So I'm running on empty, literally.
No, I just appreciate you putting those identifications on them because it helps the public. They see where you guys are at, where we're at in the community. and I think
We have, in the building department, we have, especially the ordinance enforcement truck, we took a little extra effort to put big signage on so that people could see us in the neighborhoods. There was a lot of perception that we weren't actually out there
Right.
doing things, but we do get a lot of comments on that.
Thank you.
So moved.
Support.
Thank you. Moved by Mr. Pearl, supported by Mr. Keys. Roll call, please.
Mr. Pearl.
Yes.
Mr. Keys.
Yes.
Mrs. West.
Yes.
Mr. Cannon.
Yes.
Mr. Aragona.
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam.
Yes.
Mrs. Melfi, yes, motion passes.
Item 7, bid award, South Nunley and Little Mac water main replacements.
Dear Board members, on May 21st, 2019, the Charter Township of Clinton Clerk's Office received and processed a total of 5 bids for the above referenced project. Our office checked the tabulation of the bids submitted, and the low bidder is C&P Construction Company, Inc. of Shelby Township, Michigan, in the bid total amount of $2,419,564.50. A copy of the final bid tabulations are attached with this letter. The project consists of the installation of a new 16-inch diameter transmission water main and new asphalt pavement in Nunley Road from Theodore to Gratiot. The new transmission water main will also be located within a public utility easement on the 22500 Metro Parkway property. This project also includes installation of a new 8-inch diameter water main and new concrete road in the Little Mac right-of-way between Kemp Street and McKishney Street. As a condition of the bid requirements, prospective bidders were required to be pre-qualified for water main replacement in an existing residential or commercially developed area, horizontal directional drilling for water main, and storm sewer construction in an existing residential or commercially developed area. C&P Construction Company, Inc. provided the necessary pre-qualification information to be considered for bid award. The bid results were reviewed with the Director of Public Services and Township personnel. Based on the bid submitted and conditions noted above, we recommend that the South Nunley and Little Mac Kemp to McKishney water main replacement and paving project be awarded to C&P Construction Company located at 13249 West Star Drive, Shelby Township, Michigan 48315, in the amount of $2,419,564.50. Sincerely, Scott Chabot, Senior Project Manager with AEW.
Thank you. We had 2 ways we could have done some of these projects, and we could have directional board or we could have open cut. We met with the Department of Roads, we being Mrs. Bednar, Mr. Chabot, and myself, and they indicated they would like us to put a new road in when we did the project. And they would contribute to the Little Mac paving $99,000 and to the South Nunley paving $90,000, which would then be a savings to Clinton Township, of course. Mrs. Bednar, do you want to expand upon that?
So the 99,000 on Little Mac, they agreed to a 60%, 40% match. So what we did was we're doing a water main and a paving project. So there are incidental costs associated with the road because of the water main. So basically how this is going to get funded is the township water and sewer department will pick up those incidental payment costs related to the water main. And then the remainder will be paid 60/40, 60 by the township and 40 by the county. This was actually brought to you back, I think, in February of this, saying that we were going to do this, and the board approved those expenditures for this project. Now we have the bid cost. The Nunley, we did have 2 options. We could have directional bored it, which would have required that none of the road would have been replaced, or very small portions of the road would be replaced. That's a little bit more expensive than, or excuse me, open cutting is a little bit more expensive than that directional boring. So what we did was we took the difference, because we were going to have to do one or the other. We took the difference and split it with the county 50/50, which is the 90,000.
And we appreciate the cooperation that the county afforded us on these projects. Are there any comments or questions? Floor is open for a motion.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Keys.
Yes.
Mrs. West.
Yes.
Mr. Pearl.
Yes.
Mr. Cannon.
Yes.
Mr. Aragona.
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam.
Yes.
Mrs. Melfi, yes, motion passes.
Thank you. And item 8 is a request award of purchase of Romeo Plank Pump Station Aeration System.
Dear members of the board, attached you will find a competitive bid for a water valve assessment and testing program for the Clinton Township Water Distribution Network. The valve assessment and testing program will provide vital asset information for future planning and fiscal needs. Operating water valves are essential for good water system operation. In accordance with township purchasing and bid policies, we advertise this program on the Michigan Intergovernmental Trade Network, or MITN, and our recommendation awarding the project to the only bidder, Pure Technologies US Inc., doing business as WAX Water Services. This vendor has listed Great Lakes Water Authority, the City of Grand Rapids, and the City of Petoskey as Michigan references for providing valve assessment and testing services. This is a budgeted purchase. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask. Sincerely, Chuck Belmore, Assistant Superintendent of Water and Sewer.
Mr. Cannon, that was actually item number 9. I think we gave it to you in the wrong order, Kim.
Oh,
So you
yeah.
just read number,
Well,
number 9.
That is number 9. The problem is, I didn't get a copy of number 8.
Yeah, I don't think,
I have the aeration.
I know we were having issues with getting it into the computer system, Mr.
Okay, so we're
Belmore.
doing.
So
item
I
9.
have 8 here, I can give it to Kim.
oh, you know what, is that, okay, that's the, you know
You
what, I
just
do
read
have it.
number 9.
You read number 9, the
Well, I'm not going to read it again. So when we get to it, we're just,
Come on, we all love that.
all right, here's number 8, item number 8, which is the Clinton Township Water and Sewer Department Romeo Plank Pump Station Wet Well Aeration System. That's correct, right?
Correct.
Okay. Dear members of the board, attached you will find competitive bids for the Romeo Plank Pump Station Wet Well Aeration System. The purpose of the wet well aeration system is to dissolve the grease layer and reduce the hydrogen sulfide that causes odors and corrosion in the water, in the sewer system. In accordance with township purchasing and bid policies, we advertise the program on Michigan Intergovernmental Trade Network, or MITN, and are recommending awarding the equipment supply to the low bidder from Environmental Sales, Inc. This is a budgeted purchase. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask. Sincerely, Chuck Belmore, Assistant Superintendent of Water and Sewer.
Any comments or questions? Mr. Keys?
Just to the chair, or I'm sorry, through the chair to Ms. Bednar, obviously looking at the bid tabulation, which I'm always interested in because sometimes they're super detailed and it takes me a day to get through, and then others like this are pretty cut and dry. But I am curious, we have one of the bids coming in at $25,000. Any thoughts on that or why they were so far off?
Well, so 3 or 4 of the bids are real close,
Right.
so as far as why we have that oddball one in there, I do not know.
They had enough work.
Yeah.
That's not
You know-
uncommon, though, is it? I
Correct.
wouldn't say that is not, that's not an uncommon thing.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
So moved
For environmental sales.
for Environmental Sales Incorporated to be awarded the contract.
Support.
For
Supported by Mr.
$9,400.
Supported by Mr. Aragona.
Mr. Keys?
Mr. Pearl? Mr.
Oh, I'm
Pearl?
sorry.
Mr. Aragona.
Okay, Mr. Pearl, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Melter, yes, motion passes.
Okay, item 9, water valve assessment and testing program.
So move to approve?
Is there a second?
Support.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Melter, yes. Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. And item 10 is adoption of ordinance 456-219.
And this ordinance was introduced at the last meeting. Previously, this was introduced, and because the posting of it was not done in a timely manner, it had to be reposted again. Is that this one?
So moved.
No, that's
Oh.
not this.
No, this is the DDA.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
I'll speak to it, Mr. Cannon, if I
Excellent.
may, please.
Yes.
Thank you. At the present time, we're looking to adopt the ordinance previously introduced. This ordinance is an ordinance which finds a public purpose for the DDA plan that makes specific findings as are enumerated in the ordinance, and then which also approves the DDA plan. So this is part of the process that we've been engaged in restoring the DDA and TIF plan. So that's the requirements of the statute, that we act by ordinance to approve that plan, to make a public interest finding on it as set forth in the ordinance and to make findings which are set forth. Previously, when it was introduced, the public had an opportunity to comment, and again, before it's fully adopted, they should be given an opportunity to comment.
So moved.
Support.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Well, you want to give the audience.
I want to see if there's public comment.
Is there anyone who has a public comment? And we did have a big public forum at the South Branch of the library that our planning director took charge of and did a very good job. Roll call, please.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Argona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes, motion passes.
Thank you. Item 11, Mr. Dolan, on these closed sessions, are we going to be coming out of closed session?
No, and actually, the only one we really need to go into closed session on is the first one. I'll report on the next one when we get to it.
Okay, so is there a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
This is
That's this-
DiMercurio.
Yeah, pending litigation, Clinton Township versus DiMercurio.
Support.
Thank you. Roll call,
Who made
please.
the support? Was it
Mike did.
Mr. Argona?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes, motion passes.
Mr. Dolan, you've taken away your request for a closed session on item 12?
Right, and the reason is that that matter's been dismissed because the use that was the concern, which was a use that was relying upon the 2008 Medical Marijuana Act, no longer exists at that site. That site's been, I confirmed with Mr. Miller, who was here tonight, that site is no longer occupied. I also confirmed with Mr. Towner's office today, so that's all I'd be reporting, is that that matter was dismissed without prejudice, meaning if there was a need, it could be brought back later. But that site is no longer engaged in any purported medical marijuana use.
Thank you. So a motion to receive and file would be in order?
So
That's
moved.
fine.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. West. Roll call, please.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Argona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes, motion passes.
Item 13 is tent permit for stalls. We have not had any issue in the past, and they come nearly every year.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Support.
Do you wish to speak to that item?
I sure do.
Mr. Chair, oh, sorry.
Basically, I hope the board all realizes that this gives them a 6-month tax-free showroom, and they have a very visible, unscreened dumpster facing Harper. Basically, when you've just said that anytime you replace wood slats, you must meet the current ordinance. Good heavens, in this case, I think the residents that are getting ticketed, and yes, we do see the building department coming through the neighborhoods, I think you have to look at this and say, your residents are going to be very upset that a business that doesn't even bother screening the dumpster from Harper Avenue probably doesn't deserve getting a special land use granted without being required to come up to any codes. I think that it's a slap in the face to every resident in this township, especially anybody that's gotten a ticket. It's unacceptable to me, and I would hope yous would not want to be saying that you now want to be known as the dumpster kings and queens of Clinton Township. Thank you.
I believe the dumpster's in Mount Clemens. Most of the property is in Mount Clemens.
I honestly couldn't.
Roll call, please.
Oh, Mr. Cannon, just real quick. Is the petitioner here? No, okay. I just wanted to say, I recently went into stalls, and it had been a while, and it was kind of a nice reminder that although we have great Italian markets here in Clinton Township, there are some other options as well, and it was a good reminder. It was a nice spot to get a sandwich, so I'm excited that they're going to be doing this again this year.
And actually, I'll add to that, if you don't mind. The Italian sub there is to die for.
There you go.
I often get that for lunch, so, yeah.
Mr. Chairman?
And they do deer presses.
If I may, whoever makes the motion needs to also include the fact that they will be accepting cash within the tent.
Oh, yeah, we don't want to make that mistake again.
Yeah.
Well, it's in the letter, he's requesting that.
Yeah, it's in the letter. Is that sufficient?
Okay.
Yes, the whole letter.
Yep,
Okay, so we have a motion, Mrs.
yes, yes, Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Argona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes, motion passes.
Thank you. And item 14 is Approval of the 2019-20 Community Development Block Grant Budget.
So, that allocation, is there anybody?
I can
Oh, yeah.
just,
Okay, good.
real briefly, if you
Thank you.
recall, my assistant planning director was here, I think it was at the April 22nd meeting, held a required public hearing. We've been working really closely with the coalition, working together to get this budget together. I want to thank Matt while I can. He's been doing a wonderful job as a new assistant director. You may recall, there's really three components to this: administration, which is limited to 20% of the entitlement. And these numbers are the same that you saw at the public hearing. Public service programs limited to 15%, and then other service programs, the housing rehab program, a couple of DPW projects, senior center projects. Once this is approved, this community, along with the coalition, will be submitting their budgets together, moving this thing forward as soon as possible. That's all I have, unless there's any questions.
Thank you.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
I just have one question. The 38.8 program income, is that from Heritage Estates, or where is that from?
I believe it is, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Support. Thank you. Roll call, please. Mr. Aragona, supported.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mrs. Melter, yes, motion passes.
Thank you. Item 16,
Yep.
approve the purchase of parcel ID 1611-16-277-001.
Dear board members, I'm requesting the following be placed on the May 28th, 2019 Board of Trustees agenda. Accept offer to purchase parcel ID 16-11-16-277-001, a vacant parcel of property fronting the west side of Moravian Drive, providing the township with an access point to Mill Park for a cost of $60,000 plus expenses to include recording fee, transfer tax, and title search. Last year, Supervisor Cannon, Clerk Meltzer, and I met with township directors to discuss submitting applications for DNR land acquisition grants for George Park and the Spillway property. Subsequently, the board concurred in that recommendation, and both of these projects are slated to receive funding. During that discussion, some attention was paid to issues surrounding Mill Park. Although Mill Park is township-owned land and designated as an actual park, the only access point is just south of the Moravian Road Bridge, and practically speaking, actually required us to encroach on a resident's driveway. At that meeting, Frank Pizzo shared that he had received indications that the owner would be willing to accept a reasonable offer from the township to sell the property in order to provide, an access point to the Mill Park. It was agreed that if a good price could be negotiated, the township should buy the property. Excuse me. To his credit, Frank recently had a conversation with the owner, Mr. Lifshay. He toured the property and confirmed that Mr. Lifshay, was willing to sell to the township. Earlier this week, Mr. Pizzo and I had the opportunity to talk by phone. Mr. Lifshay, who agreed to a price of $60,000 with some conditions to be finalized, that the area of Mill Park would remain public and care would be taken to protect the existence of the very large blue heron rookery there. If there is agreement to place the item on the agenda, we will contact Mr. Lifshay to inform him of a May 28th pending decision from the Board of Trustees and engage the township attorney to begin the process of completing the sale, including preparing a deed, determining transfer taxes, and engaging a title search firm to ensure clear title. I can't begin to tell you the incredible opportunities that this presents the township in the development of a park system connected to our namesake natural resource, the Clinton River. Further potential exists to connect our other parks. There are opportunities for more trails. This has also the potential to become a haven for birds and nature enthusiasts. So many possibilities. Given these opportunities, I hope you look favorably upon this request. Respectfully, Paul Gilliam.
I am very much in favor of this project. Mr. Lifshay apparently bought the property several years ago for, you said $52,000?
54,250.
And was planning to build a house there, which would have negated the opportunity to do what we can possibly do now. This appears to be a very reasonable amount of money, and according to our assessor, it is a very fair price.
Is he in the audience?
I don't
Yeah, oh,
Yes.
it's,
Oh, okay. And obviously, an environmentalist, because he wants to protect that area, as do we. So you and Mary Bednar are going to get along very well.
Sounds
So
good. Yeah, it is. It's an incredible opportunity.
For you and for us, because you're doing a good thing for the township, and I believe the township is doing a good thing for all of our residents and future generations. Mr. Pizzo?
Miss-
Good.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
If I could, I have a map here that Magda put together that's in color that you can see the property.
We all have a map.
Do you have that? Okay. I do want to clarify that this property, the Mill Park, is actually a lease with HCMA, and we're about halfway through the lease. We've never had an issue where it always just gets renewed and so forth, but it is a 99-year lease, and we're about halfway through. And they want to see the Heron Recreation and everything staying in place as well. So this is very exciting.
So if I could, oh, go ahead.
Then you.
Yeah, I just want to thank the committee and Frank for putting this together and all your hard work getting it to the committee. Frank, thank you very much. This is very important. I'm glad the cooperation, residents part too, and this is going to be great for the township in that area. Thank you. Good.
So, I hope we're saying your name correctly.
Yeah, Lifshay. correct.
Lifshay, okay. So, Mr. Lifshay, thank you very much for being here. We've spoken by phone, but we haven't had the chance to meet in person, so I'm glad that we do have this opportunity. And I don't think this impacts the purchase of this property. I think we absolutely need to move forward with this, but I did want to correct the record, as Ms. Bednar did indicate. Turns out, Clinton Township Mill Park, which I have always called Clinton Township Mystery Park, because no one knows it's really there, because we've never been able to access it, again, without encroaching on the guy's driveway, because the Moravian Road Bridge is elevated there. So the property that we do own along the roadway is pretty much restricted from even getting to it without a pretty big jump. But the fact is, we just found out, I believed, and I put in the letter, and I want to correct the record, that we owned Mill Park and we own this land, but come to find out with some research that this property is owned by the Huron-Clinton Metro Authority. It was then leased to the township on a 99-year lease, and I've got some of the supporting documents, and it's really fascinating because this agreement was put together back in 1974. It was with the clerk at the time, Michael Rhodes, and some people will recognize this name, Frank Morella, who was with the Clinton Township Lions Club. And this was a park that was designated, which I don't believe exists anymore, the Lions Club. But it turns out that the intention of this was to create a nature center and a park for the blind, specifically. And so, yes, for the blind. And it actually says in the lease agreement, so I think we have some work to do, I think, with the Huron-Clinton Metro Authority to either get this, because after since the lease was created in 1974, we're again close to halfway into the lease agreement. So we've only got 53 or 52 years left on the lease. It'll probably last longer than maybe some of us will. Well, however, it does say that any improvements go back to the Huron-Clinton Metro Authority, which is a public authority. It's a public park. We all support that as a community, along with all the other communities. But I think maybe we need to have some conversations with Huron-Clinton Metro Authority, maybe clean up some of the things that are in the lease that are sort
Who
of
signed it?
requirements.
Did Pompo sign it?
The lease was actually signed by,
all right, you guys, this guy may want to say something.
Kind of interesting.
a number of people from the Huron-Clinton Metro Authority and Michael Rhodes on behalf of the township.
Pompo was a witness.
Yeah, and Campo is a witness. So, yeah, so we have some work to do on the lease, but I think we need to move forward on the purchase. And we're very grateful to you for making this offer to us.
And just as a footnote, I mean, it's an incredible area. I don't know who's gone back in the woods, or they just go to George Park, which is obviously incredible in itself. But there is other properties, one, for example, at Harrington and Groesbeck, it's 5 acres that someone's trying to sell. It's completely within the floodway, not just floodplain, but within the floodway. So there's no variance that would allow anybody to build on it. With my experience with this parcel, there's nobody who's going to be even interested if they can't build on it. I mean, there is no practical use for it other than the practical use that you're outlining now, which is more than practical. It's aesthetic, it's long-lasting, and as you're saying, 50 years goes by like this. As long as you have this property and other associated properties, it can be an incredible enhancement to draw people and to, for the people who are part of Clinton Township that don't have the luxury of this experience. You go back in there and it's like you're in a time warp.
Yeah.
You're in some primeval forest. You've got trees that are, 4 and 5 foot across. You've got these birds that obviously have to be protected, the access to them. And at the same time, protection of the human beings who go in there. When we went in there the other day, we're walking in areas where we could see the last flood. And it wasn't even a flood. It was just a local rain, 2 or 3 days of rain. There were leaves up this high. So as instituting access to it, there has to be some great mindfulness to protect the birds and the humans and to, enhance the whole experience of being back in a spot that a lot of people don't even know exists. So, but there is other properties. There's that 5 acres there. There's other that look like they've been, I don't know if they're abated or whatever the term is, but for trying to become part of this connector trail and park, there is other properties that people, if they knew there was this opportunity to reimburse them for their expenses, they might be more than happy to have it as an extension of George, for example, or of Mill Park. So.
Very good.
Sounds like you've been talking to
Good
Don Green. But what a lot of people don't know is that we were given properties for a long time along the river there. People didn't have any use for it, so they donated them to the township, and that's where the Don Greenway is now. So we own all the properties up to the point where this lease is. And it's not unusual to have a long lease like that. The other lease we have is with the Joy Park. We have about 70 years to go on a lease with the Selfridge, who owns that property. So, I mean, what better use than for a park in the meantime, as the Mill Park?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Mr. Keys?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I don't want to belabor the issue, but I do want to just mention how proud I am of these recent park projects. We're seeing multiple departments working together, whether it's Mr. Pizzo, Scott from our engineering firm, Mary in your department, Brian, I believe, in your department has been very influential, and then here from the board level, Mr. Gilliam spearheading it on our account. I just really appreciate it, and I'm seeing the departments working together, pulling in residents, and it's just a great feeling. So thank you very much.
Mr. Cannon, you said Harrington and where?
Harrington and Groesbeck.
Yeah, that's
Thank
for
you.
When you're heading down Harrington towards Groesbeck going east.
South side.
There's 5 acres that's
Right.
all low there. It might have been, I don't know if it's someone who owns it that has no interest in the area, no residents, but it might just be an attachment to a residence. Someone decided that they should try and capitalize on it.
Mr.
But
Cannon,
Thank you.
move to approve.
Support.
Yeah, I think that's Mr. Zaccaro's property.
Okay, all right.
Roll call, please.
I'm sorry, I was talking to Mr. Gilliam. Who made the motion and supported it? You made-
Motion, support by Mr. Keys.
Okay. Mr. Burrow?
But,
Yes.
but do we want to include the covenants that, to have Mr. Dolan include those,
Yeah, that's what the letter
negotiate?
says.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure we're good.
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes, motion passes.
Item 17 is awarding gear bid for the fire department.
Dear members of the board, I'm writing to request approval to award the bid for the purchase of 23 sets of tactical gear to Bowtech Tactical located at 4775 West Harmon Avenue, Las Vegas, Nevada. Their bid was for $16,941.21 and met all the listed requirements as outlined on Mitten. This purchase was budgeted for the 2019-20 fiscal year. The purchase will equip all of our frontline apparatus as well as 5 of the administrative vehicles. Thank you for your consideration with this matter. Should you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to contact me anytime. Sincerely, Tim Duncan, Clinton Township Fire Chief.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Support, and then it's a question.
Okay.
Through the chair, and I know we don't have a representative from fire here today, and I apologize for not getting with them sooner. Is this the only bid that we received then? I didn't see a bid sheet attached with this item like we usually receive. Does anyone on the board know?
I don't know, but I know
That was
it went through Mitten.
Yeah. That was it. As far as I know, that was the only one.
There's multiple people who try to get on Mitten.
Okay. It's one thing I can get with the chief about to clarify. My only concern is in some of these letters, we always word it a little differently. You know, this doesn't say it went through Mitten, it just said that it met the requirements of Mitten. I don't know if that means they went to an existing vendor, and this may be gear that we want to keep going to the same vendor for, so that could also be the case. But I just want to clarify that for the future. So I'll get with the chief. Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion maker was who? West and Mr. Keys. Okay.
I think we did get better prices than the county actually got when they went out to secure these. I think the chief mentioned that today.
Okay.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Melter, yes. Motion passes.
Thank you. And item 18, laser flow meter purchase.
Dear board members, Clinton Township is currently performing project performance certification flow monitoring for the administrative consent order with the Michigan Environmental, Great Lakes and Energy Department, formerly the MDEQ. During this monitoring period, we determined a flow meter needs to be installed immediately upstream of the Macomb Interceptor Drain billing meter located at Union Lake Road in ACO Sewer District A. The Macomb County Public Works Office is planning to perform repairs to this meeting's facilities drop shaft, which will require bypass pumping. During that time, no flow can be measured at this outlet. It is imperative that total flows are continuously measured at this outlet for the project performance certification. Due to the size of this piping, expected flow ranges, debris concerns, and needed level of accuracy, we determined that a non-contract laser meter would be the best flow measuring device for this application. Clinton Township also needs to conduct a flow comparison study to confirm the mid-metering facility is accurately measuring wet weather flows at their billing meter. Data we have accrued to date through the ACO monitoring suggests that wet weather flows being measured at the billing meter are not correlating closely to what is being calculated from the overall hydraulic study measurements. The installation of a laser meter immediately upstream of this location would provide the most accurate and reliable measurement of flows for this study. Information from the study could be used to recalibrate the mid-billing meter. We also see this meter as a value for future flow studies in larger sewer pipes and with pipes carrying high levels of debris. The attached information provides a cost breakdown to purchase a laser flow meter versus by leasing the meter. A one-year lease of an ISCO 2160 laser meter is similar in cost to a purchasing of the laser meter. We expect the study work noted above to go beyond a year. Based on the immediate need of this type of meter for ACO-related flow monitoring, flow comparison studies, and the long-term benefits of having a non-contact flow meter for future studies, we are recommending with support and discretion from the Department of Public Services that the Township Board of Trustees approve the purchase of a Teledyne ISCO 2160 laser flow meter and the related mounting equipment for the quoted price of $15,166. HESCO is a sole source provider of ISCO meters. Clinton Township owns and uses ISCO meters for all of its flow monitoring studies. The quoted amount is similar to prior purchases of laser meters at Little Mac and 15 Mile Road and Hayes and 15 Mile Road billing meter facilities. Sincerely, Scott Chabot, Senior Project Manager.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes. Motion passes.
Thank you. Approval of the minutes of the May 13th regular Township Board meeting. Any corrections?
So moved.
Is there a second? Thank you. Roll call, please.
Wait a minute, who was supporting?
Supported by Mr. Aragona.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes, motion passes. Mr. Cannon, at this time, I ask that there was on the April 22nd board meeting, we had approved minutes that were inaccurate, and so at this time, I'd like to approve the minutes to read that Mr. Sam Bushell spoke on the 0.7 cent gallon gas tax as opposed to the proposed 45 cent per gallon gas tax. And that motion would just change that language, the 45 cents to the 7 cents, as stated by Mr. Bushell when he did his public speaking.
Is there a motion to support that?
Mr. Cannon, can I just speak to
Yes.
that? Basically, what we're doing, we're not actually.
Use the microphone, though.
I am, I'm trying to. I hope I am. Under the Open Meetings Act, once the minutes are approved, that's it. But what we're really doing is we're just adding in our record an additional notation that there is a factual addition that can be read in conjunction with those meetings. So
Thank you.
Minutes. So we're just, someone can make the motion to note that that fact is being set forth.
Okay, I'll make a motion to acknowledge that fact being brought forward. Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes. Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. Approval of the bills.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Support.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes. Motion passes.
Thank you. We have two public comments this evening. The first is Bishop Bradley.
Bishop D.L. Bradley, 22645 Quinn Road. My pastoring in Clinton Township has spanned more than 25 years, and in those 25 years for me, up to this issue of the legalization of the growing and selling of marijuana, one of my top 5 most admired persons in the township has been Supervisor Bob Cannon. Why? Because he had been a trailblazer in the county that then was reluctant on promoting qualified, and again, I say qualified blacks over less qualified whites. I remember when I first became pastor, an issue had risen over a business entering the Quinn Road community that Quinn Road did not want. You remember that, Mr. Cannon, Motor City Whiskey. But what you didn't know was that that was to be my first ever appearance before a municipal body in my life, and I was a nervous wreck. I didn't want to speak because of the nerves, and finally, when my time came, shaking and fearing that I would make a bad showing, I slowly moved to the podium, and to my joyful surprise, Mr. Bob Cannon chimed in and said, "Reverend, before you speak, let me speak, and I think that after I speak, you will not need to say anything." I was relieved, for I believe if I had spoken, I would have tripped over my words. Afterwards, and after finishing, you said, "Now, Reverend, do you have anything to add?" My answer was a quick no, and because of what you said and because of what you did, that business was shut down almost immediately to our delight. From that point on, sir, you were my hero, and anyone who visited me in my office knew of my unabashed support for you. And then there was another one of your firsts, the appointing of the highest ever ranking black person in the county, Mr. Eric Jackson, as a deputy supervisor. As far as I was concerned, the forces then present didn't like that appointment, and after a chain of events too lengthy for me to mention, you were told that you had to make an apology to an individual or group whose concern was that they did not like that appointment. I was out fishing when you called and asked me if I would make that meeting, and for you, I left the lake, rushed home, washed, dressed, made it to the meeting. I asked you, begged you not to apologize, and said instead that those who had orchestrated this should be ashamed because that was a first ever and historic appointment as far as this county was concerned, and that this should be a time for rejoicing and not apologies. And when you did what you had to do, apologize, I walked out of that meeting. And then there was your appointment of the first black secretary for your office, the supervisor, and it wasn't because she was black, but because she was qualified, and a qualified person who happened to be black. You didn't know at that time, sir, but a group of us at that time said that we blacks wanted you to not move so quickly with any more appointments because we wanted you to stay in office. I remember
Yes,
when
Bradley.
a previous trustee
10 seconds.
was
10 seconds.
I remember when, well, let me just say, Mr. Cannon, that as far as we're concerned, I would like to see that legacy still stand. I'm a great admirer of yours, and in the end, if this issue continues to come up for a vote, I hope that your vote is no.
Thank you. Second is Sam Bushell.
Yes, there again, each of you, I've got one of them right here, solemnly swore that you will support the Constitution of the state of Michigan, and basically the current 7-cent a gallon gas tax that was enacted after the citizens voted no, it was enacted by the state legislature. It really deserves this board actually supporting the Constitution of the state of Michigan by asking for an Attorney General's opinion, which cost nothing. I have to point out that 2 of the board members here have been were state reps. And they were state reps when, right now, the school systems across the state are suing the state for the 3rd time now to get them to fully fund state mandates, which is what the state constitution says. They lost the first time, and it was at the Supreme Court level. The Supreme Court said, yes, they lost, but it would bankrupt the state to pay us back, us citizens. 5 days later, after they got away with that, they did it again. The school districts all sued again and won again. And there again, the state didn't have to pay us back, so our state legislators decided to do it again. So this is not something new. This is something that this board, if you really are going to support the Constitution of the state of Michigan, you should be asking for an Attorney General's opinion. Is this 7 cents a gallon gas tax legal? Basically, you all swore in front of a judge, you signed these papers. I think that you're not true to yourself at all if you refuse to actually support the state constitution. Thank you.
Mr. Cannon, may I
Mr.
just
Dolan?
make a quick comment? Mr. Bushell, I'd be glad to provide you a copy of this document here. This is the...
I'm not interested in these.
May I finish, please? No one interrupted you, so please allow me to finish. This is a House Fiscal Agency report. This report clearly shows that the portion of Headley that would apply to the state, which is the portion that limits the amount of taxation in proportion to personal income, is estimated for this fiscal year to be $11 billion below. The spending is $11 billion below the point in time where you would hit that Headley limitation. That's the only part of Headley that applies. That's at the state level. So
We're talking about the entire state.
Excuse me,
Finish.
Mr. Dolan.
Please let me finish. When you come here and ask questions about that, this is a state issue. This document here can show you that the part of Headley that applies doesn't even come into play. We're $11 billion short on that. So I would like to just provide this to you to assist you in your exploration on this issue.
I would like you to go by the rules
That's-
of public comments.
Excuse me. His time is up.
And this board should
Give
step
him
in. Are you going to let it happen again? I get interrupted all the time. Is this board, is that okay with you guys?
You were done.
A motion is in order to go into closed session to discuss item 11. We will not be returning to open session.
I thought we already did that, right?
No, we need to go,
We're going.
we're going, motion to adjourn.
Close.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So moved. Support.
Was, Mr. Cannon, were there other,
No.
anybody else?
Mr. Dolan,
It's pending, the item that we're going into closed session on, as was voted on earlier, was the Charter Township of Clinton versus D. Mercurio pending litigation.
yeah.
It's too late. They don't have anything.
Roll call? Or we need a motion to go
I
into
made
closed
the
session.
motion.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just
You supported it?
adjourning.
To adjourn, yeah?
Roll call.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
We will not be coming back into open session, so cable can close. Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes, motion passes.
Thank you. Go into closed session.